Hi, I'm Cheryl Belair, and I'm president of the Keene Elm City Rotary Club. I'm here today with my good friends and fellow Rotarians, Alan Stroshine and Cindy Rodenhauser-Stewart, to talk a little bit about Rotary International and most especially what the Keene Elm City Rotary is doing locally and internationally. So why don't we just start right in, you guys, and talk a little bit about Rotary International and what that really means.
I guess I'll jump in. Rotary International is actually the single largest service club in the world. Has Rotary clubs all through the United States, as well as probably about 82 countries across the world. There's about 2.1 million members across the world. We're very fortunate here in our community to have not one but two very active Rotary clubs representing Rotary International.
Rotary International was founded by Paul Harris, who was a very prestigious lawyer in the Chicago area, but originally from Wallingford, Vermont, I believe. And he missed his local hometown, very collegial feel in the big city, and so he started with a group of fellow businessmen. And I do say businessmen at that time, there were no women. And it became a very quickly growing organization throughout the United States, and within a few decades it became international.
Well, I believe one of our mottos with Rotary International, and certainly local, is we are a group of business professionals that are promoting goodwill locally and internationally. I think that certainly Keene Elm City Rotary is doing that all over the place.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, we do probably the majority of our work and our efforts are locally, but we do have international commitments and have for many years. We send a group to El Salvador every year where we build homes. We also support our Interact Club out of Monadnock Regional High School and have sent groups of teenagers down to third world countries and introduced them to the opportunity of international service as well.
Both Cheryl and Alan are veteran members of our club. What year did you join?
I can't remember what year, but it's been over 20 years.
Yeah, and I joined in 2002, and it's been really wonderful to see our community just grow and grow through the efforts of what we do locally as well. You spearheaded the El Salvador trip for our club.
That was a long time ago.
2002 was my first trip down. I've been going, except for last year, every year since.
That's great. And maybe this is a great time to talk a little bit about the El Salvador trip, since that's such a big part of what the Keene Elm City Rotary does.
Yeah, well, we have to tip our hat to the Keene Interact Club, actually, that started this all back in about 1999 through the leadership and efforts of Doug Mealy and that group. They were looking for a project. In 2002, I was invited to join that group and kind of sucked our club into that project. About 5 or 6 years after I started going down, we brought our own Interact Club to join that group and started sending adult groups kind of behind the Interact Club, which is high school kids, to kind of finish up the project and do some other kind of friend building down there, if you would. So it's kind of grown from that, and again, I can't count how many homes have been built in outlying villages in El Salvador, but it's probably well over 100 in the 16, 17 years that groups from Keene have been going down there.
Mm-hmm. It was, I will say, I went down with the adult group. That was several years ago, and it certainly was a life-changing experience for me as an adult. And each year when the high school kids come back, they come and do a presentation for us, and that's usually every single one of them is saying how life-changing and eye-opening that experience is to be in a third world country and build homes for folks that are living in situations that are hard to imagine for them here in Cheshire County.
Yeah. And it's really wonderful too, because it's not just El Salvador that we in this small corner of southwestern New Hampshire have an international favor too. I mean, we're involved with Jamaica, we're involved with India, we're involved with Nicaragua, we're involved with help me out here, Nepal, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So yeah, we do really reach out, and we do make a difference internationally, even here from Keene, New Hampshire.
Which goes back to the connection with Rotary International. It is an international organization there is an expectation that individual clubs reach out and make connections internationally while at the same time focusing on their own local communities, which I think we do a pretty good balance at both.
I think we do a great balance at both, which brings me to one of the important things I think our club does so well, which is the collaboration with so many other organizations in the Monadnock region. We've reached out to numerous organizations, from Healthy Monadnock 2020 to, all of the local schools where we're doing our sneaker project. And I think that's really one of the key areas where I feel we're really making a difference locally. Yeah,
you can run down a long list, whether it be from what we need to the partners we need to put on the Clarence DeMar Marathon. We work very closely with all the departments at the City of Keene. We work with Keene State College, the Advocates for Healthy Youth, Cheshire Medical Center. The list goes on of the other partners that we collaborate with in the community and help us to do what we do. And without them, we would not be nearly as successful as we have been.
The motto of Rotary International is service above self, and I think we take that very seriously by being a very hands-on organization. We like to get dirt under our fingernails, and we like to leave something better than what we found it. And whether that's a group of people or whether it's a project or even a dream. I mean, how many dreams has our club come up with that have been fulfilled and expanded? I mean, continually grow. Raising money is a big part of it because we allocate all those funds back into the community and beyond, again with an international focus also being a priority. But the service piece is really what's the most motivating thing for me, because I don't travel internationally with the club, but I know that my dollars, my time, my effort, my encouragement is one of 65 of our club members that make things happen out of the Elm City Rotary.
We've had some pretty amazing and continue to have some pretty amazing local projects, and I would love to talk about some of those. Alan, you touched on the DeMar, and maybe you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Well, it was originally supposed to be our signature fundraiser, where for 14 years we had put on a charity golf tournament that was very successful. Took a lot of work. However, a fairly small number of people were doing the majority of the work, you being one of those people. And at some point in time, it grew to a point where it was a little tired and a little stale, and we needed something different. And at the same time, the small group of kind of behind-the-scenes people who had run DeMar for 34 years, very quietly and anonymously, we're going to sunset that event. And I had been volunteering for that event for many, many years and always thought it was an event that had much bigger potential. And so made a proposal to our Rotary Club, as well as that group, to kind of allow us to overtake the stewardship of that particular event. And we did that 5 years ago now, and have really been able to turn it into the community event that I kind of had a vision for. But that's only because we have 65 people who are willing to roll their sleeves up and make it happen, where the previous group was a small 4 or 5 people who did the majority of the work.
Who did a lot of work.
We have resources and talent and energy that have really grown it probably beyond what I thought we could have made it in terms of a community event, as well as not only a fundraiser for us that funds a lot of what we do, but it's turned into our signature community service project in the youth programs that come out of it, the 13 and 13 program, the Kids DeMar program, the Follow Me sneaker program, the Super Seniors program. It goes on and on.
It has truly blossomed into a community-wide event with so many positive impacts, many of which you've touched on. But it's nice to see, and again, a lot of this has brought us to a very nice relationship and collaboration with the City of Keene and so many departments and branches with the city. It takes a lot to pull this off. But it's nice to really work with those folks and have them work in such a positive fashion with us.
Yeah, the city's been they have been amazingly supportive and helpful, and have really gotten behind making this. It's not a chore to go through them, because they they roll their sleeves up and they want to make it as successful as possible as well.
What was really great for me this year was to see members of our sister club in Jamaica come and help and run. And that just really set it off for me. It was, we certainly do reach beyond the borders of the Monadnock region.
And our friends from Jamaica had a great time.
Yeah.
Some of them running their first half marathon.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they
Yep.
trained for that.
Yeah, Jamaicans are sprinters, I think, by now. Not long distance.
Not long distance runners, exactly.
But DeMar is the big production. It takes all year to pull that together, and I'm sure you're already planning the next one. Yeah, I think some of the smaller production things that we do really are very meaningful too. We collaborate with the community kitchen every year for as long as I remember. Cheryl, you and I made a delivery a long time ago
We
that
sure
changed
did.
my life. Those basket deliveries are really important. But we do a dictionary project every year where every single third grader in Cheshire County receives a dictionary, and we're very proud of that. You mentioned the sneaker project. That is part of the DeMar, but every single second grader in all of Cheshire County, right? How many
Yep.
kids is that?
So over 850 kids got brand new sneakers.
And some of these kids are getting new sneakers for the very first time in their lives. We don't, as a community, understand the level of disparity there is among our friends and neighbors. And I'm proud to say that we, sometimes very visibly and sometimes very silently, are behind the scenes and making a difference and to lessening that disparity. And that's something that we take great pride in, but it's a very humbling opportunity for us as business leaders in the community from all vocations, all representations of corporations and nonprofits to really come together and say, yeah, we want to make this community better. What can we do? How do we roll up our sleeves? Where do we write the check? Which, again, that's not all of it, but it is a part of it.
It's a part of it.
And at the end of the day, what difference did we make?
I think one of the important things about pretty much all of the projects that our Rotary Club is involved in, we've really taken the charge with teaching our children the importance of being healthy. And we've managed to combine not just physically healthy, which we teach them when we deliver the sneakers and we do our little exercise programs, and we talk to them about how important it is to keep their bodies healthy, but we bring it back around to how important that is because it also makes your mind healthy, which goes back to our dictionary project. You know, each of those children has a dictionary of their very own. They write their name in it, they're taught how to use it, they bring that home, that's their dictionary. We've also sat down and done reading projects and collaborated with the Kids Collaborative and Cheshire Housing. And again, it's a way of teaching the kids that how important it is to be not just physically active, which our sneakers are teaching them, but how important it is for their minds to grow as well. And I think that's such a great message, but it's also, from my perspective, amazing to feel like I'm a steward to that. And I think as our kids continue to grow in that direction, and we've seen this with the kids DeMar, suddenly their parents, who hadn't really thought about being active and how important it was to teach the kids, are out running with their kids and walking with their kids, and suddenly the conversations change.
Yeah, and not just on race day. That's something that they've been doing all summer long, where moms and dads they have to track their miles to get 25 miles to be eligible to come on race day, and parents and brothers and sisters are usually doing that with them. And before they even start that, 35 elementary schools, their PE teachers are starting running and walking clubs in the spring and getting them active. So again, it's kind of spread. And you touched on this earlier, that we have a number of different projects, but it really starts with an individual who has an idea in the club. Pitches it to the club supports it, and then they run with it. And that's how all these things keep going and maintain their momentum,
Right.
because there's a lot of really talented, really engaged, really caring people that make up our club, that care, want to make a difference, and do so.
I think we really live out our mission too, because we exemplify what it means to need each other. And I say that kind of giggling under my breath. You all have become family to me. There have been many times when not only professionally I've reached out to you, as have others, but personally, We tend to be a pretty emotionally connected group of people. I think it's rare that you find such a large group of people. I mean, 65 is a relatively large group of people that genuinely care about each other and want to take that caring out into the community. So really expressing and living that we need each other, we want to be there for each other, and not to be afraid to ask. How many times do we just respond to immediate need? Some of these things that we put a lot of planning into, I mean, that's one kind of side of us, but the other side is there's a need. How can we address it? It's urgent. What do we need to do? And without fail, someone in our club is able to stand up and say, I'll do that. I can do that. I want to do that. And it's so contagious. It's so fulfilling and rewarding. I think it's a big part of the community without the community knowing about it, and yet nobody's looking for any kind of accolade. I think that's what makes it really special.
I think the perfect example of that is this summer when suddenly Dick came up with the idea for Thanksgiving in July, and before we knew it, within
weeks.
It was maybe 5 weeks. We had an amazing event put together where it was a week-long event of Rotarians and Rotarians' friends and families and neighbors outside of Ted's collecting food and monetary donations for the community kitchen.
Swamp Bats.
Swamp Bats
bought on completely.
The Swamp Bats bought on completely.
Yep.
And that was purely, hey, there's a real need here, and how can we help? And the next thing you knew, you had a bunch of folks rolling up their sleeves and pulling it off.
Yeah.
And it was a great event. It was a great week. It was really fun.
Yep.
And we get our families involved. You mentioned friends of Rotarians, but I can remember when my kids now out of the house came along with me, as little guys, following along and doing service projects and really getting a hands-on look at what it means to be a community member. What is civic engagement? What is it to us in the Monadnock region that makes us really special, and to be able to live that out.
That's a great point. I've never thought about it, but I have 2 kids, and neither of them have never known anything else but Rotary as part of their lives.
And now I have a almost 30-year-old who has joined our club.
Yeah.
And that all stemmed from him seeing what we all did for his whole life.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned our Interact Club at Monadnock Regional High School.
Mm-hmm.
We're really excited about the brand new Rotaract Club. So right now, all age groups are being represented here in the community. Not only do we have us more mature professionals in the region,
Hey, easy.
I know, but we have the high schoolers that are represented, and now we've got that really sweet spot of young professionals, post-college up to age 30, that are again starting to implement the premises behind service above self and getting involved. We're having a lot of fun with the up-and-coming generation, really making a difference already in their nascent form, already making a difference in this community.
They truly are making a difference. They just pulled off an amazing event and raised a good amount of money for their first event. But I think what speaks to me so much about that Rotaract Club is their immediate dedication. I mean, they are living and breathing the Rotary way. And it truly was immediate.
Yeah.
When you see them outside of our meetings or their meetings, that's what they're talking about.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
they're talking about their own projects. They're talking about our projects. They're talking about what they're going to do next.
Rotary is a great catalyst for that opportunity for service above self, and gives you that pathway to do something for someone other than yourself. And these kids jumped into that feet first, and have demonstrated an eagerness to do more. And their first event was hugely successful in a fairly short amount of time. And 4 of them have been given the opportunity to join us on our next international service project, and we'll be going to El Salvador next March. So they're not just dipping a toe in the water. They're all in, and very fun to work with. I'm anxious to travel with them in a couple months.
I think it's going to be a fun trip. They're a real enthusiastic group of young folks, and it's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to watch them come along. I think, as we're talking about this, one of the nice things, certainly before I got involved in Rotary, as growing up, my family was not philanthropic. My parents were not involved in any type of civic organization. Suddenly I was invited by a past member to join the Elm City Rotary Club, and your life changes, and you suddenly learn how important it is to not just live in your community, but give to your community. Mm-hmm. And not just monetarily, but heart and soul. And we're passing that on. So for many kids, if we start them in Interact, they're in the same position that I was. They really probably have not been exposed to what it means to be charitable and what it means to be philanthropic and what it means to really go above and beyond to help other folks without looking for recognition. And that's going to carry through when you think about it. So it's carried through for me with my son. It's carried through for both of you. And we'll see these young interactors coming along. And the next thing you know, when we're a little older.
A little more mature, huh?
And a little more mature, they'll be doing the same thing with their kids. And it will really be, I think that's going to be pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our club just celebrated 25 years last year. Isn't that hard to believe? I mean, 25 years of just really healthy growth and healthy involvement, and yet worldwide impact. I realized this morning as I was looking at the Rotary International website, polio is 99.9% eradicated in the world. And that is primarily due to the efforts of Rotary International. Yeah. There are 32 cases of polio right now in 3 countries. That's mind-boggling. And we have a very loved member of our club who always reminds us, as a polio survivor, that this is probably one of the most impressive and life-changing things that a group of people have done worldwide. It's fun to be a part of that.
And it started as a vision.
It did.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's pretty good motivation for individual clubs like us to look at Rotary as a whole tackling that type of project, that type of problem worldwide. And we can look to our own issues and things that we can solve here in our own communities, and it's meaningful motivation to say we can tackle that also.
It is meaningful motivation. I think one of the other projects that came, and again this came from our member who is a polio survivor, was our wheelchair project, which is one of our newest projects. But it's exciting to see that grow. It's exciting to see we'll have a group of folks going to not only this year to Nicaragua, El Salvador, but we also have a few folks going to Jamaica, and they'll be delivering wheelchairs. Last year I think we purchased 36 wheelchairs in Jamaica for folks that wouldn't otherwise have a wheelchair that was working.
And no mobility without it.
And no mobility without it. Lots of these folks have families carrying them wherever they go. And that all came from one little idea and blossomed into this amazing project, which again is funded by the DeMar and our major fundraiser. But it's really nice to see how that's touching so many lives, and it's now brought about a sister club in Jamaica and brought them here to run in the DeMar and be part of our club and be very close with us and keep us abreast. And we also have started a reading project with them, which is really nice. So our reach is really expanding.
Yep.
Our reach is really expanding.
Have you ever attended a meeting and didn't cry? I'm putting you on the spot.
Cindy.
I don't think I ever have.
Did you just say that?
Yeah, I think I always get choked up because there's something that just really touches me and just reminds me. It's kind of like that weekly reboot for me. It just reminds me of what truly is important. And you and I are not the only ones.
We are not the only ones.
I
do you cry?
I don't cry much, but to Cindy's point, Thursday morning is my favorite morning of the week. I
Yeah.
look forward to Thursday mornings. But I can say that the people who come to weekly meetings are not members of a Rotary Club as much as they are Rotarians.
Mhm.
They don't
Right.
join to go to breakfast every Thursday morning. They join to make a difference. And when sometimes someone joins for the wrong reason, they usually figure it out on their own and kind of self-select and step away. So the core we have now is a solid group of people who are engaged, are with us for the right reasons, and help us do what we do every day.
And the professional networking is an outcome. It's not the motivation, which I think is great.
And that's exactly true. It's really not the motivation. It really just happens to be an outcome from our group, you know, and
Yeah,
from the friendships and the love that we do share.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can say that I can't think of a single personal business benefit I've received. Personal has been beyond what I can measure, and that's the friendships I have and the people who have been mentors of mine and friends of mine and helped me learn to be an engaged member of my community.
I think I've learned so much from being a Rotarian, you know, from being an engaged member of the community, to public speaking, to it just amazes me. I think each week I walk away learning something new.
Yeah.
So I want to wrap it up by first thanking each of you for joining me today. I think that there'll be some folks that have learned some things that they didn't know about Rotary International, but also about the Keene Elm City Rotary Club. It's a pleasure, it's an honor to sit with you here, but also sit with you every week at our Rotary meetings and realize how important that is to have you involved with our community, but mostly to have you involved with the club. And again, I want to thank everybody for watching. And if you'd like to find out more about the Keene Elm City Rotary Club, please feel free to check out our webpage, which is www.elmcityrotary.org. Thank you.
Yeah, 10 seconds is